Hi, I'm James, and this is my take on reality. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a new series on TLC called Seeking Sister Wives. In fairness, it's not really a new season. They have about 4 seasons. We're going to talk about season 4's family, the Epps family. Let's get it. Now, all the participants on the Seeking Sister Wives, they all sit around and say things like, oh, well, this isn't about sex, and it's not, it's greater than that. It's all about the family, and it's wonderful, and it's so great and amazing. Such an amazing experience. Let's delve into it a little bit. Now let's talk about the makeup of the Epps family. Marcus is married to Taryn, and they met in college. Now, as it turns out, Marcus was actually dating Taryn's best friend, and while he was over at the room one day, he saw a picture with Taryn in it, and he said, ooh, I want to get that. And so after that, he pursued her until they eventually started dating, and then they got married soon after college. Now, they were married for 12 years. But after the 10th year, Marcus was having issues with fidelity, so they broke up. In other words, dude was cheating on her. But during their breakup, and it's a separation, not a divorce, Marcus started dating a young lady by the name of India. They had been going back and forth, India and Marcus. They've been dating and having a good time, so much so that Marcus actually proposed to India while he's still married to Taryn. But it gets better. After he proposes to India, him and Taryn start to reconcile their marriage, at which point Marcus puts Taryn and India in a room together, and they all talk, and they decide that they want to move forward as polygamists. Now, how did they get on the show? At this point, Marcus wants to expand the family. Marcus decides that the easiest way for him to transition in a new sister wife into the home life so that the cohesion isn't messed up is he's going to actually start dating a lot of women that he knew after him and Taryn broke up. So these are the fish that got away. Or more to the point, they're the fish who were smart enough not to get in Marcus's sinking ship. Now in this season, we watch Marcus rummage through the relationship graveyard where he's dug up old bones of women that he not only knew in the past, these are women who actually turned Marcus down, or he didn't have an opportunity to try to sleep with during the time when him and Taryn had broke up. Now, Janae is a woman who Marcus met right when Taryn and him broke up and before he got with India. Now, the one thing that I will point out is that Marcus provides an excellent example of how manipulation in these relationships works. Now, as far as the wives go, Taryn, the wife, she just kind of goes along to get along, which is probably why he married her in the first place. She doesn't want to create any issues, doesn't want to create any problems. She just goes along. He comes home with anything or any ideas. She just kind of gives it the okay sign and he moves forward with it. He doesn't even bother to talk to her about it except to get her approval, which he knows he's going to get because she's the go-along girl. India, on the other hand, is not on board with the polygamous lifestyle. She is not a fan of it. She's jealous and she's envious and she wants to try to keep the family just the way it is. She doesn't want to expand it. But Marcus has different ideas. Taryn and India set up the first date for Marcus because the first date, she knew all about Marcus's situation and the other 2 women. Janae, on the other hand, is somebody completely different. She has no idea that Marcus is involved in this polygamous relationship, and more pointedly, she doesn't have any idea that he's trying to pull her into this type of relationship. So for Janae's date, what does Marcus do? He flies her in from Atlanta, where she's from, all the way to their home state, and while he's describing his date to Taryn and India, how he's setting everything up, he lets it slip that he's going to have rose petals from the doorway to the bedroom to the bed, and on the bed he's going to have rose petals shaped in a form of a heart, and it's going to be so romantic and wonderful. This sets India off. Homegirl loses her mind. What do you mean? Put rose petals in the bed? What you mean? That means y'all gonna try to get intimate. No, you not. No, you not. How you gonna be intimate? The family isn't sure she's even gonna fit in. See, and here's the secret. At that point, clearly, it's no longer about family as much as it is fornication. And that goes to the other old rule. Once a cheater, always a cheater. He's not going to stop doing what he do because you put a ring on his finger, or you put a title on it, or you make a big argument about how important this relationship is to him and to you and how wonderful the family is. He's willing to throw that all away. Why? Because at the end of the day, he knows that you don't have standards. He knows that he can go out and do whatever he wants and you're not going to do anything about it. Because if he can go out and do whatever he wants to do and when he comes home you're still there, you just okayed it. Like, and I'm tired of men in these types of shows pretending like the women have so much say and so much power and control in these relationships. They do not. The only power and control you have is you get to control yourself when you say yes, boss, and go along with whatever fool idea they come home with. It even got to the point where India threatened to move out. He said, well, if you talk about moving out, then I'm ready to shut this whole thing down. Now, I want you to appreciate what I just said to you, and I want you to give me credit for saying I would stop dating anybody because you said you would leave. Not that he would actually stop dating people. He just wants credit for saying that he would. Now, when India gives Marcus some pushback on trying to sleep with Janae on the first night, he says, yeah, I'm a grown man. Yeah, because that always works. Fellas, next time you get in an argument with your wife or your lady, I want you to stand back and say, woman, I'm a grown man. And see what happens. Do you think in your mind she's going to step back and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you were grown. I don't know what I was thinking. Or do you think she's going to step back, look at you, pause for a second, then goes 10 toes deep in your booty? Are you crazy? You'll never come out with I'm a grown man. That doesn't mean anything. What does that mean? Then he tries to embarrass her by saying, well, I slept with you on the first night. Stop right there. This is why men struggle to get women's best sexually. You're not getting their best. Why? Because they don't trust you. Nobody wants to go super freak knowing that their lover's going to throw it in their face at breakfast. All of a sudden, after a freaky night of fun, you can only eat your dinner if it comes on a plastic plate. The best bedroom fun is when you can be open and honest about the things that you like and the things that you're into with the person that is your partner. Back to the show. He then tells India that she's been acting emotional and she's being irrational. That's bullshit. She was being logical and he was thinking with his junk. How do you sell a potential sister wife? Initially, Marcus's plan was to ambush Janae. He was going to fly her in, take her to the Airbnb. He was going to cook her dinner. He was going to romance her. He wanted her to be in love with him or interested romantically with him before he presented the idea that, hey, by the way, I'm in a polygamous relationship. This takes away her choice, and this is what makes it wrong. She doesn't have a choice now. And she even went as far as to say, had she known that this was his plan the entire time, or that this is the type of relationship he was in, she never would have even got on a plane. Needless to say, she was pissed. She felt as though he was wasting her time, which he did. And he basically looked her in the face and said, that's exactly why I didn't tell you. Now here's where she lost me. She got back on the plane, went home. Then she came back to have lunch with Marcus to have a talk with him about the situation. There's nothing to talk about. Take your pride and your dignity and go find your own man and be happy and live a long life. So what's his plan? Ultimately, he wants to get her to a point where she asks the one fatal question, which is, how does this work? When you ask, how does this work? That means that I'm no longer trying to convince you to do it. See, this tells him that you're not only curious about it, but you're in a position where all Marcus has to do at that point is to make it make sense to Janae. He has to present the logic and the case to where she finds it attractive. So she's already interested. She's already halfway there. He just has to close the deal. Now, how does he get her to the point where she says, how does this work? At that point, he did a couple things. To make the deal more interesting to her, first he tried to come at her with the whole sex stuff. Oh, I be there and the girl be like, oh, you need to go over there and give your sister wife some. And I go over there and give her the good stuff. And then it takes away all the pains from her day. But then she didn't really care about that because keep in mind, Janae was a bartender and she's probably been hit on hundreds of times during the course of a week and during the time when she was working. So the fact that you coming at her with a whole bunch of, if I get you in the boudoir, this is what I'm going to do to you, doesn't really work on somebody who's been exposed to that ad nauseum over and over and over for years. So instead, he shifts gears, and now all of a sudden he starts talking about, well, wouldn't it be great if you had somebody who had your back, who was supporting you, who was checking on you, who was looking out for you, who really believed in you and wanted to help you to achieve your dreams? Join us. We're the Boy Scouts. That's basically what he told her. My favorite part is he steps back and say, yeah, it's dope. Are you crazy? Now at this point, he rolled out the polygamous secret weapon. What is it? The wives. See, if you have a wife who is down for this, oh, she is the greatest tool ever. I don't care how good looking you are. I don't care how wonderful you are and how smooth you talk. If you don't have a wife who's willing to stand there too, oh, you are missing some stuff, because that's a key factor and that's a key component. If you watch any of these shows, the first thing they always do when they're seeking a new person is they try to put them in contact with one of the wives, if not all the wives. So what does the wife do? The wife makes it okay. See, groups in general can normalize even the most depraved action or mentality. They can make everything seem normal. As an example, an angry man can be dangerous, but a mob can be deadly. When you have a group of people who are morally justifying anything that happens, then all of a sudden everything is possible. There are no rules, there are no limitations, because the group is telling you that everything you think and everything you do is okay. The way women are brought up, they're conditioned from a very young age not to listen to or trust men. Now, this gives rise to the possibility that a woman may be able to sneak under their radar undetected. Every point that Marcus makes becomes that much more powerful when it passes through the lips of a woman and his sister wives. This banks on the idea that a woman will look at it and say, hey, well, I can trust what she says because she's one of us. She knows what we want. She knows what we desire. She probably has the same insecurities and things that I do. And a voice in the back of her head saying that this isn't a good idea, she's gently telling that voice, shut the hell up. Don't listen to that voice. Listen to me. I've been there. I know what I'm doing. This falls into the category where salespeople will try to push the better business ratings and the reviews from satisfied customers, because these are all people who are supposed to look out for you. These are people who are just like you, so you can trust what they say. Don't listen to yourself. Listen to them, because they know better. Genuinely, I don't care what people choose to do with their lives. Who they choose to be with, who they choose to sleep with, and how they choose to conduct their lives. As long as you're an adult, and as long as you have the capacity to make competent decisions for yourself, I don't care. However, I do dislike the dishonesty that Marcus is pushing as far as these relationships go. The Epps family in this situation don't have a polygamous household as much as they have a Marcus gets to screw anybody he wants to house. I'm James. This is my take on reality. If you guys liked the episode, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like, share, leave your take down below. I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die.